Hello again, Steve here with a comment that I think is maybe worthy of a bit of a discussion. See what you think of this. I don't have any data to support this, but I would suspect that the cell phone addiction that a lot of people have, to some extent myself, looking down at my cell phone, checking messages, what's the YouTube, what's the latest video that's come onto my feed or whatever. I would say that is displacing other addictions. So there might be a silver lining here, such as displacing potentially smoking. Like smoking is apparently on the downslide, generally speaking, across society. And it's just like when we start eating a different diet, we kind of displace what we were eating because we only have so much room in our stomach or whatever. So when we occupy our time with something that we would have been occupying maybe with another addiction, then it would have the chance of reducing that addiction. It just kind of makes sense to me. I don't know, but I don't know if it's true or not, but it's just adding more to our lives. So it's probably going to reduce other things. And this reminds me, the silver lining part of it reminds me of an exercise we did at an event I was at not long ago where somebody was doing something called, what did they call it now? The flipping the conversation around. An example would be when somebody says something negative, you acknowledge it, or something said in a negative light, you acknowledge the facts that are in there, and then you reframe it in a positive light. Like for example, somebody might say, it's been an awful rainy week, hasn't it? I mean, it's just like rain. You say, yeah, it's a lot of rain. Yeah, and I'm sure the farmers are really happy at that because, their crops were quite dry before that. It's acknowledging the fact that it's raining, but it's flipping it around into a constructive or positive light, right? And coming back to smoking, though, and one of the things I wanted to talk a little bit about here. The smokers that I have known, they seem to be people who were socially awkward and potentially, somewhat traumatized as kids. Because especially with all that we know about smoking, why would they smoke if they know it's harmful, but they smoke anyway? Well, that means there's benefits in smoking. We don't talk about the benefits of smoking anymore, do we? At one time, we talk about the benefits of marijuana, smoking another weed, but tobacco, we don't talk about the benefits, but there are serious benefits. I mean, people have been able to write much seriously. They've been able to focus much better than people who don't smoke. So there's evidence that having a smoke actually makes one momentarily smarter. So there are benefits to it. But the negatives seem to outweigh the positives, right? But the smoking part of it, and I think the reason why people do it, aside from the addiction, those who are getting going in it or whatever, they're not addicted, but they do it anyways because, like when I was in school, for example, there'd be the smoking group, and they would hang out. It was an opportunity. They had an excuse to go for a break, and they were social people, but they were awkward being social. It's kind of a paradox in a way. But through smoking, it gave them something to do while they were being social, so they didn't have to engage. I can't smoke, I can't talk right now, I got this cigarette in my mouth. And all the smokers understand that, right? And it's something to do with your fingers, flicking the ashes off and whatnot. It takes off the jitters that would normally be put to no use whatsoever. These socially anxious jitters. And I think that, the cell phone especially, much more so than before before everybody had a cell phone, back in the 90s and stuff, people had videos, so they had the email and stuff like that, well, the early 2000s anyways. But the idea of these smartphones was not ubiquitous. And so you couldn't just walk around with your laptop very easily or your desktop computer. But now everybody's got these, and when they're social, it can either be a solo exercise, more so than smoking can be. The addiction of smoking can be a solo exercise for sure. But it can also be a social exercise. You see these kids, they're sharing their videos and they're sharing this, they're sharing that. Hey, look at this, look at that, look at these pictures and so on. It's a way of engaging with other people without having to do much conversation and being active in something that takes off the edge of social anxiety jitters, I would say. So I guess bottom line, time will tell whether one addiction is better or worse than the other. In the meantime, I suspect that this has come on in such a wave of activities to do in your hands, with your eyes and to talk about and so on. These phones that people can whip out, and you see people walking around with them everywhere and sharing this and that with people, and sharing this and sharing that, videos, contact information and whatnot. It's a whole new paradigm in a way. Time will tell though whether that is a good addiction on balance or not so good addiction. Maybe we'll find out that everybody's blind at 80 or something because they're looking at the screen all the time. But in the meantime, I think there is a displacement, and there are obvious positives. I mean, because people can learn a lot by listening to podcasts and watching videos and sharing ideas and whatever, which is certainly a different level, a whole raft of other benefits or other possibilities of benefits than just smoking. But I think there's similarities. I think there's very much similarities between smoking and cell phones, cell phone activity. What do you think? If you like what I'm doing, please like, subscribe, and share, and comment in the box below. Steve here again, great chatting. Talk again soon. Bye for now.